It can be really easy to pair a business's success with flashy milestones, a five-figure launch, working with your dream brand, or even a viral video. These moments can certainly be exciting, but in the last few years as a full-time content creator, I've realized just how few of those things have actually helped me build my business. And my goal is always to create a sustainable business that can really last me for the long term and that isn't dependent on those one off flashy moments. In fact, oftentimes the biggest difference makers are anything but glamorous. They're the behind the scenes habits and systems and decisions that are made when I'm like bent over my laptop with no makeup and a messy bun, just having an admin day that don't necessarily make for a perfect moment to share on Instagram. Today, we are talking all about the unsexy things that have helped me grow my creator business. From building systems and investing in SEO to starting and scaling passive income streams, learning how to advocate for myself, and more, these are the strategies that I really believe have made my business more sustainable, more profitable, and honestly, a lot less stressful to run than things probably could be around here. And sometimes the biggest wins come from doing the boring things consistently and doing them well. Before we get into the main topic of today's episode, let's first do create and consume as we do in every episode on this show. So, to start out with what I've been creating this week, I published a regular week in my life vlog on YouTube, which was really exciting for me. And that might sound like, why was a regular week great for you? Well, we have been dealing with some construction like in and around our building. I hope it has not come through on the podcast whatsoever, but it's made filming and recording at home kind of tricky. And, there's only so much audio engineering that a gal like myself can wrap her head around. So I certainly do my best to try to keep things as professional and clean sounding as I can. But there are some times where you just can't work your way around jackhammering. However, we seem to be in the clear with all construction. So that vlog was really just getting to show you a typical week in my life at home. I got a lot of work done. I show you kind of different areas of creating content. And we also had a family wedding. So I vlogged a tiny bit at the wedding, also the rehearsal dinner, and of course I show you my outfits from the weekend. So that's fun if you're just looking for like regular standard issue week in my life kind of vlog. And then as far as what I was consuming last week, I was consuming all kinds of delicious Italian food at the St. Anne's Festival here in Hoboken. So the festival actually turned 116 this year. It was started by Italian immigrants who came to Hoboken in the early 1900s, and it's been going on ever since. And it's so funny. The first few years that we lived here, we were away during St. Anne's, so we really didn't get to experience it. And I think it was maybe 2 summers ago that we went and we just picked up Zeppelis and we didn't get to like try any other foods. This year, we specifically went with the plan of like, this is going to be our dinner. And I'm happy to report that nothing was disappointing. We had the sausage and peppers on a roll, which was great. We had a wood-fired pizza, which it was just so good. Like, I couldn't believe how good it was for being cooked, in the back of a truck in the middle of the street. And then we did wait half an hour for the Zeppelis, which once again were worth it to me. And the Zeppelis are just tricky because you have to like eat them right then and there. They do not keep well, I wouldn't say. The powdered sugar can just get kind of crusty and the dough doesn't taste right. So you have to get them and eat them right then and there. And this year we learned our lesson and we got a half dozen compared to the dozen we got the previous year. So St. Anne's has ended as of last Sunday by the time this episode goes up, but it is just one of many Italian food festivals that I'm happy to say take place in my neighborhood. I forget what the dates of Mutz Fest are, but there's that. There's a couple of other things. So if you find yourself in the Hoboken area, definitely don't forget to eat some of our Italian food while you're here, because I promise you won't regret it. With that said, let's get into the topic of today's episode. Actually, before we do that, just a reminder to let me know what you guys are creating and consuming as well. I always love hearing from you. So you could send me a voice note, you could send me an email, you could leave a comment wherever you're watching or listening to this episode. Please reach out and tell me. I'm always curious to hear what you guys are up to as well. And if you also have a moment right now, if you could please rate and review the show, specifically on Apple Podcasts, 5 stars, that helps more than you know, just get the show in front of more people. And it's a small little thing you can do to support this thing that I do for free every week. So I really appreciate everyone who's done that so far. Also subscribing if you're watching along on YouTube right now and you haven't subscribed yet, or subscribing or following the show on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you're listening. All right, now we can move on to the topic of today's episode. I do feel like it is my podcaster duty to like say those things to you guys every once in a while, because usually when I do say them, people actually take action, which is always appreciated. And kind of speaking of the podcast too, in relation to this topic, I've been noticing that you guys have really been enjoying, like I can see completion rates are pretty high and episode listens are up for episodes where I do share the behind the scenes of my business and more kind of content creation tips and things like that. So if you guys enjoy these episodes, as it seems that you do, please also feel free to reach out and let me know. Or if there are other topics I've done recently where you're like, oh, I could have listened to 20 more episodes about that topic, please feel free to send them my way, because I am not doing this podcast to hear myself talk, right? I'm doing this to hopefully provide value for you guys, keep you company throughout your day, give you some inspiration or some education on some of these topics. So if there's something you want to hear me talk about, your voice matters. This is a democracy podcast. But based on my analytics, the content creator tips and behind the scenes entrepreneurship social media episodes tend to be pretty popular with you guys. So I was thinking more about other ways I could kind of talk about this topic and put a fun spin on it, because I obviously have done a ton of creator tips videos on my YouTube channel previously. I can link a playlist with like over 150 videos where I talk about getting started as a creator, social media one-on-one, how to do brand partnerships, and plenty more. So I can leave that linked in the show notes for you guys. But I thought for today's episode, it would kind of be interesting to bring light to the things that probably don't get too much attention in my business, that I actually feel like are the things that keep the lights on around here and that make a big difference, even though they seem maybe boring or like inconsequential. So we're gonna shine a light on those things today, and hopefully this is helpful for any of you who are starting to take content creation more seriously or looking to grow your businesses to the next level. The first thing that I would say that kind of took me a couple of years to figure out was really designing systems for myself. And I think that this does two things. Number one, it helps keep me on track. And number two, it really legitimizes my business, which in some ways, I know it exists, but in some ways it doesn't totally feel super tangible. Obviously, I work from my home office. I create content all the time, but there are some parts of my business that I'm like, this is a real thing. And I have to remind myself, yes, like you have an LLC, you make money doing this. This is the only way you make money. So it's really fun to get to be creative about how you make the systems that keep your business running too. And what do I mean by systems? I mean ways to track your content, ways to track your income, content calendars, just keeping yourself on a certain kind of schedule. And part of the beauty of content creation is you can be creative and let your creativity dictate a lot of things. But at the end of the day, kind of just having baseline systems of things that you know you're going to have to do every week or every month or every year in your business, and finding ways to make sure that you're tracking those things and also seeing if you can improve upon them over time. I talk a lot about my Notion hub on this show, and whether you want to literally like copy and paste my Notion hub, which I can link in the show notes for you guys, or create your own system to, again, set and track goals, measure your progress, I just find it to be really helpful. So whether you want to use Notion to do that, whether you want to use Asana or Trello, whether you're a AI genius and you know how to have Claude do all that stuff and set it all up for you, there are just a lot of different ways to go about it. And I do think that having one kind of central hub for all your business stuff is really important. If you're just starting out and it seems super overwhelming, it could also be Google Drive, or it could be a Google Doc. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. But over time, I think you'll see where sections of things will naturally develop. Like I have a spreadsheet with all of the contacts of brands that I've talked to or have been gifted product with over the years. I have a whole page of Notion that's just dedicated to the podcast and my podcast outlines and episode ideas, and the type of content that I share on YouTube and Instagram to promote the podcast. I also have a place where I set and track my goals for the year, where I do a mid-year reset, where I do an end-of-year goal review, and where I have weekly to-do lists that basically populate for every single week of the year. And one big reason I think this is important is a lot of the times it just removes decision fatigue. If you have an idea of what you want to accomplish in a year and you kind of break down those goals to smaller, more manageable tasks that you can do each month, Obviously, you're going to still be creating content that's more responsive to trends and things that are happening currently, but like to know that there are just some things that you're going to do every week is cool. Like maybe you do an Ask Me Anything on your Instagram stories every Friday, and that's baked into your kind of systems or operational backend. Maybe on the first of every month, you go through and import all of your receipts and update your finance tracker from the previous month. For me, I have a lot of weekly long form content that I make sure that I'm sticking to. So, for example, a podcast episode every week, a YouTube video every week. Right now, my blog has been every other week, and I do my newsletter on the weeks that I'm not doing my blog. So, those are kind of all just like baked into stuff that I know I need to do every week, and having it all written out and having that be kind of my operating procedures for my business in one place makes it really easy to know after I get all of these things that are necessary done each week, now I have room to work on a brand partnership, or now I have room to do a little mini series on Instagram because I have extra time this week. Systems really make it possible to repeat your success because when you have a system in place, you can always just refer back to it and you can always update them later on. I think the fact that systems make your success easy to repeat just again takes a lot of the pressure off and removes a lot of decision fatigue from your week to week. Having different recurring checklists for when you launch a new product or every time you publish a podcast episode. I actually have that written out. I mean, I kind of know it inside out at this point, but when I do work with a virtual assistant on the podcast, it's easy for me to hand it off to them and say, okay, from the time I hand you a finished edited episode, here is everything you do with that episode. Like, this is literally the upload checklist for the podcast. It's like, okay, export video, export audio, now creating additional content. Here's how you do the blog post and show notes. Embed the YouTube video to the blog post, like podcast scheduled for 5:30 a.m. Eastern time on Thursdays. Like, all of that stuff exists in a Notion doc for me. And then for my podcast virtual assistant, I have a video like screen recording walkthrough of exactly how I pull clips for each episode that gets shared on like Instagram and TikTok, and also how I do the blog posts and how I use an AI tool to speed up that process. Whether you're creating these written procedures or instructions, or whether you're a more visual person or you think video is easier, I like that for the podcast virtual assistant because they can just rewatch it as many times as they want and they don't necessarily have to have me show it to them once over like a Google Meet call and then forget what I said and then have to ask me again. I feel like it just saves a lot of back and forth to have everything actually explained in one place. And that's part of creating the operational procedures for your business. Next, I want to talk about doubling down on what works. And I'm sure this is advice you've heard before, but I want to tap a little bit more into the psychology and the why about this. Why this is so beneficial for going deeper with your audience and building more recognition and therefore more authority. And also why this is better for you and your processes as a content creator to avoid burnout. I think a big part of it comes down to it takes a while and it takes a lot of trial and error. And if any of you have posted content online before, I'm sure you know this, to really find something that works and resonates with people and kind of pops off in one way or another. And when it does, it can be so easy to be like, wow, that was so exciting. And then just kind of keep going back to what you were doing. But you have been given a big opportunity when a piece hits with people to say, what about this hit? What can I replicate and use in other content? And it doesn't even have to be the same exact content idea. Maybe it's just the style of video that you did. Maybe it's the text overlays that you added. Maybe it's the music behind the video. You can really just take these different elements of what was successful and continue to try to reuse them so you can get even more information about what's been working well. I can't remember if I talked about this on the podcast or not. I know I talked about it in a recent YouTube video, but I had a viral video 2 weeks ago at this point where I was trying on two dresses, which, mind you, were pretty similar. And I asked people which one they thought I should wear to a wedding. And over 2,000 people commented to tell me which one of these dresses they thought I should wear. The video now has over 700,000 views on Instagram, over 300,000 views on TikTok, so like over 1 million cumulative views. And there were a couple of things about this video that I feel like can be repeatable things for me to try again in the future. And in fact, that I already am trying again in the present. So, to touch on that point first, what I did next after I saw this video's success was I went back because I know I've filmed at least two other reels slash TikToks in the past where I tried on a couple of different wedding guest dresses and I asked people which one they thought I should wear. What I did was I re edited those two videos with the same font that I did for the video that popped off. And that was really the only thing I changed. I re uploaded both of those as trial reels. And one of those videos has almost 15,000 views now and 300 comments. And another one has almost 25,000 views now and 500 comments. And that was content that was just sitting in my camera roll. But since it was the same topic or the same idea, right? Like, which dress should I wear to this wedding? I knew that I already had two other videos that I had already posted and filmed for before, where if I just cut down, I think they were all part of Nuuly try-ons because I have rented from Nuuly a lot over the years. And I tend to rent from Nuuly when I'm going to a special event like a wedding. I kind of just cut any extra chatter in the intro and I went right into which dress should I wear to a wedding. Does it matter that these two weddings already happened and one of them was literally 4 years ago? Not really, not to these people, because they still have an opinion on it one way or the other. And if this is their introduction to my page and my channel, then so be it. I also ended up making 3 other related videos with that dress just so people would see it again and remember, like, oh yeah, the girl with the dresses, like, I wonder which one she chose. And I also made another video that was an offshoot of a couple of comments that I received about my widow's peak, which is always so funny to me when that becomes something that people feel the need to comment on. If you're just listening, or if you've never seen my face somehow before, I do have a small widow's peak, which is a kind of heart-shaped hairline situation where I have just a little part of my hair that comes down further in the middle. For some reason, people love to point that out. I think also because I had a slick back ponytail in the video, it was a lot more pronounced than it is on a normal day usually. And I did make a video replying to one comment about that and talking more about my widow's peak and how it has been something that I've received comments on over the years and, addressing people's suggestions that I part my hair in the middle instead of slightly off to the side. And again, I don't really care one way or another. Like, I'm happy with my hair and everything. But making that video got a lot more people commenting and weighing in, a lot of people defending me and telling me that my hairline is lovely, which I appreciated and know myself already, which is good. And also just people coming in and being like, oh, I'd never noticed that before, or oh, no, you should do it in the middle. It looks really good when you part it that way. So that ended up being 2 pieces of content that I had already created that I repurposed as trial reels, a video responding to comments, and then 3 more videos with the dress that everyone had been talking about. Like, that's already 6 extra pieces of content from that one piece of content. So that's what I'm talking about on the doubling down front. And the other thing is when you show people, again, a familiar background, like, where I'm sitting to record the podcast right now, or a familiar outfit that maybe they've seen you in a couple times, or even a hairstyle, or when you reuse the same fonts and brand colors, or in this case, when the dress that everyone was debating which one I should wear showed up on their feed again, it's just that instant point of visual recognition. And that alone probably made people stop scrolling to say, oh yeah, I remember this dress. I remember this girl. Like, let me see again what the update is or what we decided on here. So that's one of those things where I just had to let the content speak for itself. And that mattered a lot more than my feelings. Like, do I necessarily want to make a video where I'm drawing more attention to my widow's peak, which some people don't like? I don't know, it probably wouldn't have been the first idea I had for my content, but I saw an opportunity and I said, I'm not going to get my feelings hurt over this, so let's talk about it. And now I also know for the future that people like helping you make decisions or they like sharing their opinions about things. So the next time I have a special event or something I'm getting dressed for, I probably will do another video where I ask people to help me get dressed or tell me which outfit they prefer. And then I'll take it from there. And then it's up to me how often I want to kind of continue that series. Because now that I've already repurposed the other 2 trial reels, I've seen that it's successful. So I have reason to believe that any future videos I make in that style, asking that type of question, will also be successful. And I also just love knowing that, another creator could rent these 2 exact same dresses and basically copy my video exactly, but it's still not going to be me and my personality. So that's what makes this successful for me specifically. But you could totally take this vibe and this idea and use it for whatever content you create. If you're a beauty creator and you have an event coming up, you could try on like a bright red lip and a bright pink lip and ask people which one they like better. If you create books content, you could have people vote on your next beach read. Like, you can engage with people in a similar way, but I love knowing that that video popped off for me, and it's because I'm the one who made it. Let's move on to number 3, which is definitely SEO, otherwise known as search engine optimization. Now, SEO on paper, I think sounds pretty boring. You're telling me that you are going to spend all of this time optimizing just for a search engine to like have a better idea of what your content's about? Well, depending on what type of content we're talking about and where you're creating this stuff, it actually can be kind of make or break for what you end up posting. If you have a blog, if you have a YouTube channel, or if you have a Pinterest account, all 3 of those are search engines at the end of the day. And the more information that you can give a search engine to properly categorize your content and then show it to the right people who are looking for content like that, the easier it's going to be for you to get found, get discovered, and get in front of your ideal readers or viewers. Now, SEO optimization for Google and YouTube and a blog, they're all going to vary slightly. I actually cover all 3 in my SEO workshop, which is just called What You Really Need to Know About SEO. I love it because it's a no fluff, just straight to the point workshop about how to optimize for all of those things. And I just updated it in the spring. So if you guys are interested in that workshop, I will leave it linked in the show notes. But even on your short form content, giving the platform more information about your video can help it get shown to the right people. One way that you can see if TikTok and Instagram are properly categorizing your content is to go to your profile, click on any video, and then at the top, if it says find related content, then it probably doesn't know what your video is about. If it says something specific that you're talking about in the video, then that's a good sign. So for example, I was talking to you guys about St. Anne's Festival in Hoboken. So St. Anne's Feast is coming up at the top of the search bar for the little mini vlog I made about that. And it has a lot more views than some of my other videos. It has like 7,000 views compared to some of my other TikTok views. And that's telling me that TikTok knew what this video was about because I gave it a caption, I used some in-app text, and I tagged my location. So all of those little things are giving TikTok more information about what this video is about. Even this little transition video I did getting ready for Andrew's cousin's rehearsal dinner that we had, I did it to Sparks Fly by Taylor Swift, and the little search bar at the top says Speak Now Era Outfit. Even though we're not in the Eras Tour era anymore, sadly, it still is categorizing that for people who are looking for outfits inspired by that era or outfits that are purple or whatever it is. And Instagram's even getting better at this too. So this video I had edited using Edits, which is Instagram's short form video editor. And in the meta AI summary for this video, which is annoying, but like this will confirm, the metadata that the video is giving to the platform. It says Austen Tosone demonstrates a $35 heat-proof summer blush combo using CoverGirl True Blend cream blush layered with Tower 28 Get Set blush, a technique the brand founder tested in a sauna for longevity. That's not something I put in the caption of that video. That's something I'm saying verbally in the video. So the fact that Meta AI has pulled that information is good because now it knows that this is like a heat-proof or sweat-proof blush combination, and this video is more likely to be suggested to people who are looking for that. So say what you will about the Meta AI summaries. I don't really need to see them, but the fact that that's kind of happening behind the scenes is not necessarily a bad thing. To tie it all back into SEO, we're not going to be able to like really dive deep on SEO in this episode in particular, but again, I have my workshop if you want to like get into the weeds of that and see what my strategy is for not just blog posts, but YouTube videos and Pinterest as well. I think the bottom line here is for evergreen content that you are properly labeling and captioning and making very clear what the content is about. The beauty of searchable content is you create once and it benefits you years and years later. A lot of my top ranking blog posts for 2026 so far were blog posts that I wrote in like 2024 or 2023. So to know that that content is still working for me and bringing new readers to my website means that I don't have to work as hard every single month and every single week to put out a brand new blog post. And, I would rather spend my time creating quality blog posts than worry about hitting a certain posting number, which I feel like is harder to do on an Instagram or a TikTok where you really do get rewarded for consistency. And if you're a content creator and you are not yet doing any type of long form content, I would highly suggest even trying to publish like one YouTube video a month or one blog post a month just to get started, because that content really like pays dividends, so to speak, later on. On kind of a similar note, number 4 on this list is building an email list. And again, if you've followed me for a long time, you know what I'm about to say already, which is the typical spiel about how we don't own any of our social channels, which sounds crazy. We do all the work for them. We create the content for them. We're the ones who have been showing up for years and years, posting and creating content. But at the end of the day, Instagram could choose to suspend your account for any random reason. YouTube could flag your account and then you're not monetized anymore. It is so important to have an email list. And if you don't have this now, it's very easy to set up. All you need is an email service provider. There are lots of them that are free up to like 5,000 or 10,000 subscribers. I personally use Kit and have for a couple of years now. I previously used MailChimp. I know there's also MailerLite, there's Flowdesk. There's a lot of options. And having just one of them set up with an opt-in for emails, I think is the bare minimum. If you want to take it a step further and really start to entice people to join your email newsletter, you can create some kind of freebie for them. So maybe it's a checklist, maybe it's a guide, maybe it's an ebook, just something that they get for free in exchange for them giving you their email address. Now, I do want to mention some people do this through Substack. I see an email list and a Substack as kind of two different things. I actually have a whole episode of this podcast where I talk about Substack, and I spend like the first 2/3 of the episode talking about why Substack is great and like what people are looking to it for and why it's such a great storytelling tool. And then I spend the kind of end of the episode talking about why I don't have a Substack and why I don't see a place for it in my creator business, and why having my email list is more important to me and a better fit for me and use of my time. So if you want the full explanation, deep dive on that, I can link that episode in the show notes for you guys. I think that if you are in the future planning on selling something of any kind, whether you want to host live events and sell tickets to that, whether you want to create and sell digital products, whether you want to offer consulting, whether you want to write a book and sell it, you should have an email list for sure. And you should also just have one, again, as a backup, as a kind of last case scenario, just on the off chance that something goes crazy and your accounts are not working, to be able to reach your audience. And I think the beauty of an email list is your most engaged subscribers will be the ones who sign up for it. Usually the people who sign up to hear from you in their inbox are going to be your most engaged subscribers. They're kind of already going to be warm leads. They're going to be people who know you. And to be able to reach them directly in their inbox without an algorithm in your way is something that is hugely important. Even if your list is small, it's going to be so valuable for you, and you're going to get a higher return on investment through email marketing than you ever will on social media. It just has to do with the nature of the platforms, people's user intent, and how they actually use their email and use social media. The fifth thing that has truly grown my business a lot over the years is investing in education, aka digital courses. I am all for going back to school in a sense. Like, I don't really want to have homework or tests, but I would look into auditing a class at like my alma mater or something. I feel like I appreciated school while I was in it to a certain extent, but thinking back now on the fact that like I just used to get up and go learn all day. And then I would, study in the library, and then I would just hang out with my friends who all lived within 3 blocks of me. We had it really good in college. And I don't know, I like to think of myself as a lifelong learner. I feel like my parents were always big proponents of just getting out there and learning as much as you possibly can, particularly my dad, who used to say before he left for work and I left for school, have fun and learn. And that phrase has always like really stuck with me in my life. And I think it's nice to apply that too to your work or your career and figure out ways and people who you trust who can kind of enhance or accelerate your knowledge or your learning of a particular topic. A lot of people think digital courses are kind of a scam, and I'm sure there are plenty of scammy digital courses out there. I have personally done a lot of research on the instructors that I have chosen to buy courses from and, spend my hard-earned money on, and I've never been disappointed by a course that I've purchased. Usually, for creators like this who do sell digital courses, I will consume as much of their free content as I possibly can to make sure that I understand what their values are, what their teaching style is, and get a feel for what I can kind of expect the course to be like. Typically, for creators who do sell digital courses, you'll see that a lot of their content is about what to do, and they'll give you tips in that regard. But then the courses are really more of a roadmap and specific step by step how to do things. So I have purchased 4 digital courses in the time that I have been a full time content creator. I purchased one about SEO. I purchased one about YouTube. I purchased one about how to create a digital course. And I recently purchased another one about short form video and social media. Again, do I know how to do a lot of these things? And did I know to a certain extent how to do things before taking these courses? Yes. Did these courses expedite my learning, elevate my understanding of these things, and get me to point B from point A faster than I would have on my own? Absolutely. Now, some of these courses have either been modified and turned into other courses over the years, and some of them have actually since sunsetted since I bought them. So I'm not going to get into the specifics of like which courses I've purchased before. Although, if you really want to know or you think you're considering one that I've tried already, feel free to shoot me a DM and I can help you. But there are still systems and learnings that I have from these courses that I still implement in my business today. And I think the beauty of a course too is that I can take the parts of it that are working for me, and there are just some things that maybe an instructor swears by or that they feel like have really worked for them that I just know ultimately aren't going to be a fit for me, and that's okay too. But to dive deeper and often get resources like spreadsheets or workbooks or things that I can easily just like plug and play my own information into to get places faster is crazy. And particularly for the course that I bought that taught me how to make my digital course. Again, would I have made my own digital course eventually without this? Probably. But this expedited the process down to like 4 months. And it also helped me to pre-sell the course before I even had made a single lesson to just validate that people actually wanted it. And I think that saved me so much time. I think that, again, validated that the idea was good and showed me that people were willing to buy it so that I didn't spend all this time creating a course only for no one to buy it because I didn't create a course that people actually wanted from me. And what I really try to do for a digital course is to follow it to a T as much as I can and as much as it works for my business and for myself. I'll do everything the way they tell me to do it the first time around. And then once I complete the course, I'll go back and I'll continue to do the things that I felt worked well. And I will, probably modify or maybe erase some things that I didn't feel like were the right fit for me or that didn't work. So that's on that with digital courses. And the last thing I'll say about that is I know a lot of people who buy digital courses, like who spend, hundreds or sometimes thousands of dollars on a digital course. And then I'll ask them how it's going. And they'll be like, oh, I haven't started that yet. Or like, oh, I did lesson 1, but I never got back to it. So if you are going to buy a course, I do recommend that you try to buy it if it's being offered, ideally at a time where you can actually commit to going through it all, because that's one of the best ways to make sure that you'll actually get value out of the course that you bought. Number 6 on this list is kind of a quick one, but it's really learning how to advocate for myself. And this pretty much entirely correlates to money. It is not always easy to explain your value to people, and it's even harder, I feel like, to do it for yourself versus if you have a manager or a virtual assistant who's kind of like negotiating on your behalf. There is something just, for lack of a better word, almost cringy about it, even though it shouldn't be that way whatsoever. And I think my biggest struggle being a self-employed micro influencer, that has been a struggle of mine for the last 5 years, has been getting brands to pay the rates that I would like to be paid, that are not a reflection of my follower count specifically, but that are a reflection of my years of experience and the experience that you get partnering with me, a creator, with all of those years of experience. And that kind of sucks because, in many ways, it means that I am not getting paid what I think I should be paid a lot of the time, and that I will either need to make decisions for myself where I say, I'm sorry, I simply can't work for below X amount on this project, or where I have to accept something below my normal rate as long as I have hope that it is actually going to be a good experience and that the content will still be fun and that my audience will still like it. So that can be super annoying. And I understand why brands are hesitant to pay my rates sometimes. Just when you look at my follower count or engagement, I'm probably charging a lot more than creators with a similar follower count to me, but that's not the only thing that I'm charging for. So I think that communicating your value and being able to justify your pricing is one of the top skills that you can learn. And this is something that's hard to do and that takes a lot of practice and a lot of trial and error. And it's also even hard because it can change with the seasons sometimes. Like, during the pandemic, people barely had budgets to pay their employees, never mind hire content creators to do marketing for them. And then I remember 2022 was a particularly good year for me being a self-employed content creator. I think it might still be one of my higher earning years in the time that I have been self-employed. And then 2023 just felt like it took a plummet, and it felt like coming out of the boom of TikTok, now there were all of these creators who had kind of gotten over their first year of oh my gosh, I'm getting free products or I'm getting invited to do this thing. How cool. Realizing that it was a business and then starting to increase rates and charge more and ask for more. That then, for a micro content creator like me, maybe there's a little bit less left over. So I don't know if that's true or not. That's kind of just my speculation of how I see that year to year drop off in my business. Plus, I was getting married in 2023 and wedding planning was kind of a lot. But anyway, for learning to advocate for myself, just a lot of trial and error with pricing, a lot of figuring out what works for both parties in a negotiation, pitching myself to brands that I already have created great content for and that I've seen a return on investment for from myself and my audience. And also just asking a lot of questions before signing a contract with a brand to make sure that they don't want to add in usage or that they're not going to turn around and take my voice and turn it into AI and then sell it somewhere else or whatever the case is. Usually, when I can come with some facts or proof that there will be somewhat of a return on investment, or at least confirm to a brand that I am getting their story or their product or service, whatever it is, in front of an audience that they're trying to reach, even providing my demographics and saying, look, I have a lot of women in my audience, ages 25 to 40. This is like a millennial and Gen Z audience who typically lives in and around major US cities. That already is helpful for a brand to know and see screenshots of as well, to just make sure, okay, we're getting our content in front of the group that we want to reach. Little things like that can even help prove your value and show them that you are the right fit for their brand, even if maybe the engagement has been off for the month or the views are a little low. Okay, number 7, hiring experts, specifically hiring experts for areas that I don't know much about. A lot of creators who I follow with a large audience will often credit growth of their business to the time when they got a manager or hired a team or hired a person full time. And I just want to say I've seen smaller bumps and accelerations of growth from hiring what I could afford to hire and what made sense for me, a one-woman show essentially, who is creating on all these different platforms. So for me personally, it doesn't really make sense for me to have a manager, in the sense that my inbound brand collaborations and requests right now are not at such a crazy volume that I can't respond to things myself and do the management and negotiation side of that. Whereas if I was getting 50 plus legit brand offers every month, that's suddenly going to become a lot more to manage. That's why I would ultimately maybe get a manager to help me with some stuff like that. But a manager is not the only person you can hire to help you as a content creator. I have an accountant who helps me file taxes every year, who I've worked with for a couple years now. I have a lawyer, Veronica from Curator Council, who has helped me secure now 3 different trademarks for my business, which again really helps legitimize my business, makes me feel real, when I can say that I have an LLC and that I own 3 trademarks. That's a big deal, and that makes me feel more legit than just yapping into my phone. Probably does. I work with a company called Influencer SEO to optimize old blog posts. So, again, for me, I have a whole archive since 2012 of blog posts that have not been properly optimized. I really didn't start learning much about SEO until like 2019, 2020. So, there's like 7 years of posts before that that have never once, been optimized for metadata or that don't have SEO titles or that don't have tags or other things. And what I like about influencer SEO is I just have them optimizing 8 posts a month for me. So they will start and prioritize with my newest posts, but they're working their way like all the way back through that archive. And this is a monthly service that I work with them on that is a lot more affordable to me than if I were hiring like a full website manager, let's say. And then I also work with a virtual assistant on the podcast too. So the virtual assistant helps me with blog posts and getting social media content out on Instagram and TikTok, stuff that I'm capable of doing myself, but would rather spend the time on other areas of my business. And that alone, like even freeing up, call it 2 or 3 hours a week to put back towards other things, has helped me grow because it gives me more bandwidth to put towards other stuff, which I very much appreciate. And, no one's an expert in everything. It took me a long time to admit that. And I think it's helpful to try to do everything yourself at least once, but just to know when to call in someone else. Like with trademarks, I really didn't want to do anything wrong or have it get messed up, so I wanted a lawyer on the case. Same with accounting. Like I do my own bookkeeping and track my expenses throughout the year, but when it comes to actually filing taxes, especially as a freelancer where it gets a little dicey sometimes, I like to have a professional. Number 8 on my list is tracking the numbers. I feel like we kind of talked about this a little bit already with doubling down on what works, but just to give you a few specific examples of things that I do track in my business so that I can look at those numbers, make a conclusion from what they're telling me, and then implement whatever I learned the next time that I go to make something. So, tracking my monthly income and revenue by platform, looking at my YouTube analytics, especially things like click through rate, watch time. I A B test everything on YouTube that they allow me to. So, I'm always A B testing different thumbnails and titles. When I see which combination won out, I might even swap in other iterations of those and run another test just to kind of see if the numbers shift or move at all. Brand partnership rates month to month. And honestly, AI tools have been kind of helpful for this because when I'm negotiating, I can go to Gemini, for example, which like has access to my Gmail and be like, what were the rates for my last 3 partnerships? And I can easily kind of see all of that. Also, affiliate click through rates, as well as my top performing brands. If I am selling a lot of product for one particular brand month over month, that's a brand that I should probably be pitching and saying, hey, I always link to, I'm making this up, but also Abercrombie, call me if you want to work together. Oh, I'm linking to my 90s Curve Love relaxed jeans again from Abercrombie, which I feel like I do every month. And people are clicking on the link and buying them, that is in my LTK from this past month. So maybe, just maybe, I could be working with Abercrombie. And then also blog traffic and analytics month over month, which sometimes you just have to kind of know also the seasonality of your business. Like I am going to be having probably a down month for July in my blog just because it's summer. Ad budgets are kind of low right now. Brands are saving for holiday. People are on their computers less. I expect to see my blog analytics go up from August through November pretty substantially. And then number 9 is diversifying your income streams. And this is something that I kind of knew from the jump, like right when I quit my job in 2021, that I needed to start and scale, particularly a couple of passive income streams, just because brand deals can be great. A lot of creators will quit their full-time jobs with the expectation that brand deals are going to sustain them entirely in their journey as a full-time content creator. And I think people find out pretty quickly that that's not always the case. And again, it could be something completely out of your control. There's been inflation over the years, there's been layoffs and budget cuts and so much uncertainty, especially in, like the fashion, retail kind of spaces. It just brings me such peace of mind to know that if I have a slow month or if I get 0 partnerships in a month, which has happened a couple times, that I'm going to be okay. Starting passive income streams was so transformative for me that I actually made a whole digital course about it. So I do have my course called the Influencer Income Accelerator. If you feel like this is an area of your business that's lacking, I honestly do recommend checking it out. There's a pretty detailed page on my website that explains everything that's in the course. And I basically cover 4 passive income streams too, which are affiliate income, ad revenue, digital products, and a membership. So I currently use 3 out of the 4 of these. I did used to have a membership, but I actually chose to close it down. I talk all about that in a YouTube video about why I closed my Patreon, so I can link that if you want to watch. But none of these things, made me go viral overnight or like put me on the map, but they sustain my business. Like my blog ad revenue and my YouTube ad revenue are a big chunk of my monthly income each month. Affiliate income is a little more hit and miss for me. I feel like affiliates work well at scale, so I am probably, not getting as many clicks as like bigger content creators are, but it's not insignificant money either. Like it still counts. And whenever you do choose to shop the links of a creator that you follow and love, it actually does make a difference. And I know that it's appreciated if you see people posting links. And then digital products is another income stream that I truly love. And again, the beauty of those is I create them once. I mean, for something like Right on Pitch, my pitching ebook, I typically update that at least once a year just to go in and make sure that there's nothing in there that's kind of not relevant to today specifically. But that, my invoice templates, my brand campaign wrap up templates, my rate sheet templates, all of that is on my website available to buy. And I have a lot of older YouTube videos where I kind of plug and mention those more. I would say sales are down for those just because I'm doing less content about content stuff. So I don't make as many sales for them as I did when that was the full focus of my YouTube channel. And there was kind of a more clear, like, mention in the video. The person goes to click on it and then they realize it's exactly what they were looking for type of traffic to those pages. But I also have Pinterest pins that suggest them. I do talk about them in podcast episodes sometimes. So I do still get sales each month for my digital products. They're just maybe not as like much or as consistent as they once were. And I'm also okay with that because I've been trying to just pivot my business back into lifestyle anyway. And I would rather be monetizing through ad revenue and brand partnerships than through digital products right now, even though I love digital products. And that is everything I had on this list. And I think a lot of this stuff could be considered pretty boring by most standards, but these are really the things that I think have helped me create a business that feels profitable, that feels sustainable, and that feels like something I can come back to because I've done a lot of the back end, again, unsexy admin work to set up these things. And I just have such a good system and process in place now for, everything to grow and continue on in the future. So thank you so much for joining me today for another episode. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll talk to you all again next week.